There are many websites and many apps or books which talk about thank you, Brother Reverend Vico, for that kind intro and also that warm welcome that you gave me. It's my joy and privilege to be in your midst tonight, and I'm asked to speak and to set the tone for the event, for the conference. And the theme is, no, I didn't hear. What is that? Empower Young. Empower Young. I'll be speaking for a while, then I'll of course stop because Biko, who asked me to be brief, he gave me 45 minutes. I said, no, that'll be too long. So he said, okay, 30 minutes is fine. Okay, but if I'm led by the Spirit, I don't know where I'll stop. And if I am brief, you know that I'm not led by the Spirit. Okay, that's a joke. Empower Young. What do you see on the screen? I want everybody to read loudly along with it. Empower Young, and then what is the subline you see? Give wings to fly and roots to grow. That's the sub-theme that I have coined this evening. I'm going to address on how can we give wings to the young and roots for them to grow and become tall trees to bless our nation, bless our churches, and bless the whole world. This evening, the scripture portion that was read is from the book of Judges, chapter 2, verse 10. Only one verse. I'm taking a thematic approach to the whole subject this evening. Judges chapter 2, verse 10 says, there arose another generation who did not know the Lord, or the work that he had done for Israel. After Joshua was dead, a new generation took over the nation of Israel, the leadership of the nation. And they had so many issues and the problems in the entire nation. And the commentator says here, there arose another generation. After that generation of Joshua, a new generation came and took over, and they did not know the Lord. I'm going to dwell on this. This is my principal verse today. Welcome those who are from outside of Tura and Garo Baptist Convention. It is always good to be in Tura, but also be careful. Tura people's hospitality is very unique, and many don't go back from Tura. Some of you will come back, I know. I'm not a prophet, but maybe we'll see you in the days to come here in Tura. I feel so young today to be amidst of the young crowd here. In fact, I was telling Viko why you are wearing necktie. I said I wanted to come with a polo shirt, t-shirt. But I avoided that. I should not be too daring to do that. It's cold outside here. To address this theme, empower the young, or empower young people, I thought we need to understand 4 basic elements of generational dynamics, or in a sense, what is happening from generation to generation. I think that is going to set the tone for the Youth Fest. Empower young. The moment we say this phrase, empower young, a lot of questions arises. Two words or one phrase, but so many questions we can raise on the whole thing called empower young. Who are these young people? How do you define young? You know, what is empowerment? Who is going to empower the young? And what kinds of empowerment the young people need today? You can go on and go forth. You know, it will become a thesis, actually. I searched what could be the best answer to this. I have a lot of answers. But one thing that caught my eyes is what the former President of United States, President Franklin Roosevelt said. He said, we always cannot build the future of the youth. What did I say? Come on. We always cannot build the future of the youth, but we can build our youth for the future. What did I say? But we can build our youth for the future. Here lies the answer. We cannot build the future for the youth, but we can build the youth for the future. I think this single saying of this great leader of a great nation talks about what is empowering the young people. In a world today, the world today that we live has 1.8 billion young people. Out of the 7 billion, almost like 1/4 of them are young. Now, when do we say young, understand that United Nations has defined young as from 10 to 24 in age. 10 to 24. Don't look at your mobiles. Tell me, which is the biggest or the largest nation in the world having the highest number of young people? Anybody? No wrong answer. Go ahead. Anybody? Which country? Myanmar? China? The secretary says China, and some say, those who say India, raise your hand. China and India. Okay, very good. Unfortunately, my brother, it is not China, it is India. 356 million young people in India, largest in the world. 356 million means brother of one United States of America. This is the size of our young people. Then followed by China, Indonesia, United States, Pakistan, Nigeria, Brazil, Bangladesh, and so on and so forth. This is the world where we live, where almost 1/4 of the population is young. Young people are unique, isn't it? Just now, my brother, Selvaraju also said, young people have a lot of hopes. Yes, I agree to you, brother. Fully agreed. Young people have hopes, they have dreams, they have potentials to fly up to the sky. They have the energy to do anything, even to go to the wars. And also, they have vibrancy to rock the world. So, young means not only energy, but also a lot of vibrancy. Yeah, young people of this age, of today's generation, are one step ahead of the young people of the other age or the gone by era. The young people of this age of our generation are on the cutting edge of knowledge and handling technology. In fact, they are so techno-savvy. Technology is so natural to them. They understand technology. They can handle technology. It is so natural to them. Yet, in this world of young people, in this world where there are a lot of hopes, but also there are frustrations, there are angers, there are disappointments, negative feelings within themselves, within you, and also against the society, against the governance, against the system. And that is why these young people are really, really volatile. You can compare them with any explosive, actually. So it is a force. It is a force. To understand the dynamics of generational movement, I'm dividing the whole subject into 4 categories. Number 1, can it be on the screen? Number 1 is what? Can you see? What do you see on the screen? The greatest generation. 1G. The first G. 4G. Okay, remember. If you don't remember well, when I'm going to ask you again, you have to repeat. Then don't say Haji. Okay? The first G is what? The greatest generation. The second G is what? The next generation, or the Gen Next. The third G is what? The generation gap. And the fourth G is what? God of generation. Let's go back. Let's go back. Remember, 4 G's. The greatest generation, Gen Next, generation gap, the generation gap, and God of generations. I'm going to ask you, don't say Haji. Okay? Greatest generation. God creates every human being for His purpose, like He created Adam and Eve. He creates every creature to fulfill His mandate. Mandate that comes from the Garden of Eden. Mandate that He gave to the humankind. So see the big picture. Big picture. And here comes a commendation on a man called David, King David, in Acts chapter 13, verse 36. It goes like this. For David, after he had served his own generation, by the will of God, he fell asleep. He did not die. He fell asleep. That means he will rise again. Note there. And he was buried with his fathers, and he saw corruption. That means David was not a superman. He also suffered corruption. He was rotten in the grave. This is the meaning of it. David served his generation and he fell asleep. This is the purpose of our life, my young people. Imagine a generation or an individual who serves God's purpose on earth during his lifetime and he fell asleep. Imagine yourself. But unfortunately, unless we are intentional, we are not going to fall asleep after fulfilling God's purpose on earth like David. A great generation. What do I mean by that? The greatest generation. I am borrowing this title. I am borrowing this title from a book. From a man called Tom Brokaw. You can get this book from Amazon.com. And Tom Brokaw, in his book, The Greatest Generation, he argues that it is, I believe, that the greatest generation of any society has ever produced. He's talking about a generation in the United States of America. But I draw a parallel not only in the United States of America, but during that era, people who were born, they made the greatest impacts in the world. And that is why there is a great generation. All the great people of the world that you read in the history are born in that era, in the time frame. And that is why it is called the greatest generation, greatest generation. And what's happening today in our world is that that greatest generation has never repeated after that generation. Many generations have born after that generation, but they are sometimes good, sometimes worse, sometimes great, but not the greatest. Here is a scope for us. Some of the names that you are familiar with is like J.F. Kennedy, Richard Nixon, George Bush Sr., Billy Graham. All these people are born in that era of greatest generation. In early of the last century, early part of the last century, say from 1901, from 1924, those people are called the people of great generation. Then I tried to research whether the great generation people were born in a country like India too. Oh yes, we can find so many names, like people like President Suharto, in Indonesia, President Suharto, in India like Indira Gandhi, Bhagat Singh, then Mother Teresa. I'm talking about globally. Richard Attenborough, all these people, even outside of the United States, born in that era. They were the people of great generation. Tom Brokaws' theory, and which is really true. What happened after that great the birth of the great generation? After the birth of the great generation and the impact they have made in the world today, we are still enjoying the fruit of their work. There has never been a greatest generation. And that is why, my dear brother Bhikkhu, the leader of the CBCNEI youth, I think it is the call of the hour. It is the call of time to work towards producing another next greatest generation of our time. It's possible. Nothing is impossible to God. I'm so happy that CBCNEI has adopted a theme like this, Empower Young. If we want to see a great generation coming after our generation, we need to empower them. We need to give them wings. We need to give them roots so that they become tall trees to bless others. The greatest generation. Jim Collins, he says one thing. He said, good is the enemy of what? Great. Good is the enemy of great. We do not have great universities because we have good universities. We do not have great schools because we have good schools. We do not have great churches today because we have good churches. Anything that is good is enemy to great. What is the secret of that greatness? David raised a generation in his time that would see glory of God, that will exalt God on the highest. And he fulfilled the purposes of God, and he fell asleep. My dear brother Bhikkhu and the team, we also have the same challenge today. I think this is a time to think about how can we also raise a great generation of young people from the Northeast India, from this fraternity, who can be a blessing not only to Northeast India, but to this nation and beyond. We have a scope. Great generation. Let's move on. What's the second point? What is the second G? The Gen Next, or the next generation. Thank you. Next generation means the succeeding generation. There also, if you look for synonyms, they will be called seeds and breeds and broods and descendants and whatnot. There are many names for them. But of late, the world has been using the Gen Next or next gen or the next generation people to indicate the people who will be coming behind this or after this generation. By the way, even the technology world has used the next generation word very well. They will always say next generation computer, next generation machine, next generation, robot or whatever it is. So even the technology is using the word, Gen Next or next gen or next generation. Usually, when we refer to a next generation, usual understanding is the next generation is a better version than the prior generation. They are better people, they are smarter people, they are smarter machines, they are smarter tools, smarter equipment. And also one significant similarity between all this is they are independent and they have a different sets of values and cultures. All this mix up is altogether called next generation. I am different from my parents. My children are different from my thoughts and understanding and the worldview. They respect some of my views just because I am their dad. They must be laughing inside, but then they have to respect me. And in our culture, respect is such a big thing. Respecting the older generation or the seniors. So they respect me, but inside I know they must be just enjoying the fun, looking at my perspective. This is how the next generation look at the older generation. With the web revolution around us today, the technological revolution that is around us today, everything has changed. The way we interact, the way we study, the way we read, the way we do things, everything has become so different. You cannot imagine life without those technologies today. That's why understanding the next generation is so important and critical. How this dynamics operated in the past, how this generational progression evolved, and where we are today. To understand this, I just want to give you some classification. People born between 1901 and 2024 are called people of great generation. The history makers of the world. The people and men and women of great impact in this world are the people born in that era, the greatest generation. People born in that time become young and energetic and really working people by the time the Second World War hit. Second World War was hitting the whole globe. So they had to struggle a lot. They have to be really be resilient to survive. And out of those struggles, some good things happen in this world. And that is why they